Hi guys, and welcome to another video. This hat was supposed to be a snug fitting beanie, but as you can see, it's now a slouch beanie. So you can use this pattern to make a snug fitting beanie, but just remember when we add the rows of the puff stitch that it does create another increased row. So you're going to have to do one less increased row than what you would normally do for a snug fitting beanie. But if you don't mind if it's a slouch hat, don't worry about using the one less row. So that's what I will have to do next time if I want it to be nice and snug. So you can wear this hat on the side, or you can wear it on the back. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Don't forget to subscribe, as there will be plenty more videos coming up. So let's get started on the lesson. We are going to need some yarn of your choice, and also a crochet hook that is recommended for your yarn that you're using. I'm using 8-ply or double knit wool, which is normally going to recommend a 4mm hook, but I'm using a 4.5mm because I find when I do the puff stitch in this hat that it comes out really tight. So I just want a hook that is a little bit bigger than is normally recommended for your yarn. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the crown beanie video that is located just here. Just click on that link and that will show you where to go. Then you're going to complete as many rounds as you need to make the hat big enough for you to wear. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows, and I am up to where it has an increase, and then 1 stitch by itself, 2, 3, 4 stitches by itself, and then an increase. Now depending on what size thickness of yarn that you're using, you may need more rows of increase or less rows of increase. So how do you know if your hat is big enough? So let's grab Mrs. Foamy and come out a bit with the camera so we can see what we're doing. So this is the crown of the beanie, and putting it on Mrs. Foamy's head, we want to make sure that it fits the crown of her head. Now Mrs. Foamy has a smaller head than me, so it is going to be a little bit too big for her. So what you do, and this is probably going to be a bit of a slouchy type beanie on me as well. So putting the crown on the head, if the sides of the beanie match up with the sides of your head, the straight part of your head here, it is big enough. So bearing in mind this is a small head, this is actually fitting my head. So on me, when I put my hands up to the sides, it goes up and reaches my head. Another way that you can test it, so if you don't have Mrs. Foamy at your house, or the head that you're going to make your hat for, you're going to go, oh look, there's my kettle. You're going to go to a website that I'm going to put the link into the description box, and it's Bev's Country Cottage. This is a fabulous website as it has a sizing chart, and it has anywhere from preemie babies up to the adult sizes that you need. So my head circumference is 58 centimeters. Yes, I have a big noggin. So what you're going to do is you're going to need to have some measurements, or you can use the chart or the information that is on Bev's website, Bev's Country Cottage, and use it as a guide. So go to the age group that you want, go to the measurement that you need, and don't forget that it does stretch a little bit, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to grab your tape measure, like so, and you're going to measure the circumference. So you're going to measure all the way around the outside of the beanie. My head circumference is 58 centimeters, so I'm just going to measure this down flat so it's a lot easier for me to do. So I'm just putting the tape measure around the outside, and you want to have this flat, or as flat as you can get it. And just measuring that up there, making sure it's all pressed down. And you don't want this tape measure to be really tight, you just want it loosely around the outside like so. And I don't know if you can see that. I'll try and zoom into it. The measurement that we've got on our hat is 56 centimeters or 22 inches, and my head circumference is what I said before, is 58 centimeters or 23 inches. So what happens is this hat is going to be a little bit stretchy, and it will stretch a couple of centimeters or an inch or so to fit. It will stretch enough to fit the head that you're making it for. So measure your circumference on the outside of the crown that you have, and what you're doing is you're increasing until you have this part big enough. So you'll stop increasing when you have the measurement that you need. So this is as big as I need mine, because I know that if it's 56 centimeters or around about, if it was a little bit smaller, if it was say 54 centimeters or 21 inches, I'd probably add a few more increases on the next row. But I know that if I get it to just before 58, so 56, 57, I know it's going to stretch enough to fit my head. So I hope that helped you in gauging how much increasing you've got to do and how big to make the crown before you stop doing your increasing. And on all the basic patterns this works. I have tested it myself. I actually tested it the other day just to make sure before I did this video. So once you have that done, then you can go on with designing your own hats or continuing on with any pattern that you've got. So once you have your crown finished, you're going to make sure your yarn's actually on the right side of you, which is my left. I've already just completed a couple of stitches there. So what you need to do is have the stitches around here, like that we have on the outside. I've got 72 stitches. You might have different, because depending on what size you need to make your hat, you're going to need an even amount of number. So anything that can be divided by 2. So I've got 72 stitches, and that can be divided by 2 evenly. Don't ask me what it is, because I'm not that good at maths. So if you have, say, 71 stitches or 73 stitches, what you can do is you could add an increase, which is another stitch. So say I have 71, I actually need to have 72 because it's got to be divided by 2. I would just put another stitch. You already got one there. I would just put another stitch into that last one there. So by doing that increase or adding an extra stitch, that brings my stitch count to 72. You don't have to have 72, you just need your number to be able to be divided by 2. Ugh, bit of a mouthful. So I know I've got 72, so I'm just going to join to finish off that round. So what you want to do now is chain 3. Another way that you can do this to step up the stitch, and I use this in my owl beanie video, and I find that this makes the seam, you know that ugly seam that you get sometimes, I find this way actually makes it less noticeable. So see how there, I don't know if the white background is going to be better, there's a white cloth I've got here. See how there's that loop? See how there's a hole there? And that is the hole where we slip stitched it. I'm just going to pull the slip stitch out. This is the stitch that we slip stitched into. So it's there, so you are slip stitching into that top of the chain 3. And then what we're going to do is go back into that same hole where we slip stitched, yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 on your hook, and you're going to complete a single crochet. Then you're going to chain 1, and that is instead of a chain 3, and it won't make it so you've got that big hole or that ugly seam. It should blend in a lot better, and I've actually used it here. Now can you see where the seam is now? You know where the seam is because it's underneath there, because that's where we chain up. But you can't see it as much, can you? Sometimes it's really obvious, but I find that works a lot better. But you can do the chain 3 if you prefer. So what we're going to do now is work the puff stitch into our next stitch. So what you're going to do is you're going to yarn over and go into the stitch. Pull up a loop, so you're just pulling up a loop, and you're going to do that 5 times. So that was the first time. You're going to yarn over, go into the same stitch. Let me just zoom in so you can see. So you've yarned over, going into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and I just give it a bit of a gentle tug there to make them all the same length. So you're going to do that 5 times. So that's 1, that's 2, yarning over, pull up a loop, that's 3, yarning over, same stitch again, pulling up a loop, that's 4, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarning over, going into the same stitch, pulling up a loop, that's 5. You're going to yarn over, pull through all the loops, and then do chain stitch just to secure all this in there and it doesn't come undone. Now what you're going to do is find your next stitch is there and just do a double crochet into the stitch. And we're going to repeat that all the way around. So you yarn over and go into the next stitch, and in that same stitch do that 5 times. So you go yarn over, into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, that's 1, 2, yarn over into the stitch, that's 3, that's 4, and 5. Pull through all the stitches and do a chain to secure. So yarning over, doing a double crochet in the next stitch. You're going to do that puff stitch again into the next stitch. So yarning over, going in, pulling up a loop, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarning over, pulling through all of the loops, and then doing a chain to secure. If this is the first time you've done this puff stitch, it could be a little bit tricky pulling through all those loops. Oops, sorry guys, bashing the camera. So we're going to do a double crochet into the next stitch. So we're going to work another puff stitch, so that's yarning over, going into the stitch. So you're pulling up 5 loops, so that's your first one, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And see what I'm doing there? You're pulling through all the loops and chaining 1. See what I did when I'm actually doing the puff stitch, I'm actually holding the loops on the hook. So we're going to double crochet in the next stitch, yarning over, going into the next stitch. So that's pulling up, that's 1, and I'm holding that there, otherwise they all fall off and you've got to start again. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarning over, pulling through all the loops and chaining to secure. Working a double crochet in the next stitch. We're going to work another puff stitch. That's yarning over, going into the next stitch, yarning over, pulling up a loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pulling through, chaining 1. So it's going to look like this, and what these puff stitches will start to be 3D. They're going to start to stick out. So you're going to repeat this all the way around until we get back to the beginning. So when you come to the end, we should be finishing on a puff stitch, but as you can see I have one extra stitch. So like me, and you didn't listen to what I said, and you have a number that can't be divided by 2, because I just checked my stitches and now I have 71 stitches, so I obviously miscounted in the beginning. Instead of pulling out that whole row, which I am not going to do, I refuse to, I'm actually going to put what I need to have in that last stitch, because I need to finish on a puff stitch, but now I've got one stitch, so I don't want to join that, otherwise I'll have this gap. So what I'm going to do is do a double crochet in the next stitch, and then I'm going to work a puff stitch in that same stitch. Now I know it's doing an increase here, but seriously it's like one stitch, so no one's going to notice. And yeah, whoops, what am I doing? I'm doing a puff stitch, sorry guys. So into the same stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, because I'm not going to pull out that row, because we finish on a puff stitch. Our next stitch is our double crochet, or the beginning stitch that we did. So I have the single crochet with a chain 1. If you have a chain 3, you're going to slip stitch into the top of the chain 3. I'm slipping into the chain 1 because I have a single crochet in chain 1, so I'm going into that chain 1 space there, getting under both loops, making sure you get 1 on the bottom, 2 on the top, and then just slip stitching to join. See, and you've got 2 in that one stitch, but seriously, can you even notice it once it's on your head? And if you can notice it and it's on your own head, just put it to the back. No one is going to see it. So as you can see, it's starting to get, let's just zoom out, starting to get a little bit wavy on there. A little bit's fine. If it gets, that looks quite cool. It could be like a huge coaster for your dinner plate. So what we want to do now is start our next row. So this is starting to get bigger because it's going to be, I'm thinking this is turning into a slouch hat, because I haven't actually done this pattern. I'm just videoing this as I go along. I'm just making this one up as I go along. So this might turn into a slouch hat. Somebody just turned up outside and my dog's whinging, as you can hear. So what we're going to do, you can do your chain 3 or you can do your single crochet chain 1, and we're going into that little tiny hole there. It can be a little bit hard to get into there. Just push it through, pull up a loop and complete your single crochet and chain 1. So now we are going to do a puff stitch into a puff stitch and a double crochet into double crochet. What you could do is you could alternate it. So you could take this back out, do your puff stitch into your first stitch and do your double crochet into your puff stitch, and that will alternate where your puff stitches are sitting. So what we're going to do is do a puff stitch into the top of the puff stitch, and see how there's this stitch here at the top of the puff stitch. That is where we're going to work our puff stitch. So yarning over, pulling up a loop, that's 1, back into that same stitch, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Pulling through all the loops, chaining 1 to secure. You're going to do a double crochet into the double crochet. And this row is repeated through the whole thing until you have it long enough to fit your head. If it's for yourself, you can obviously try it on. If it's not, you can use the guide in the Bev's Country Cottage link that I'll put below. You can use that as a guide for the height if you need to make it for somebody else. So yarning over, going in the stitch, pulling up a loop. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. double crochet into the double crochet. Repeat this all the way around, and you want to repeat this row until you've finished the length of your beanie. So I just showed you how to do the row with all of the puff stitches, but if you want to make it like this example where there's a double crochet row in between, this is how you would do it. So I've just done my puff stitch row. So what we need to do is do your chain 3 or do your single crochet into the stitch here, and then our chain 1. Then what you want to do is work a double crochet into the top of the puff stitch. So at the top there's that little loop. You're going to work into the little loop at the top there and work your double crochet. Then you're going to work a double crochet into the same one, into the double crochet on the row below. So you just worked into there, now you're going into this stitch. And then into the next puff stitch, into the top of the puff stitch, which is just here, going under both loops. And then one into the next double crochet. And you're just going to repeat this all the way around until you get back to the beginning where we started, and then we're going to join. So once you've done your double crochet row all the way around, we're going to join into either the third chain at the top or the chain 1 like I have here. So going under both loops, making sure you have the loop on the bottom, and then making a slip stitch. So this is what I have so far. It's a bit hard to see in the screen. And as you can see from mine, it's quite big, so I'm thinking this is going to be a slouch beanie. So I did my increased rows, then I did my row of puff stitch. I did one row of double crochet, another row of the puff stitch. I did 3 rows of double crochet, a row of the puff stitch. So what I'm going to do is alternate that, so it's puff stitch, double crochet, puff stitch, like those 3 rows, and then do 3 of just normal crochet, and then do the puff stitch, double crochet, puff stitch, and then just repeat that all the way until it's long enough. So keep going until you have it long enough. If you want it to be a nice slouchy hat, you just want to add more rows than you would normally to a normal size beanie. Now I'm pretty sure this is going to be too big for my head. My head is 58 centimetres. Let's measure this. It looks too big anyway, looking at it, it looks huge. Yeah, it's going to come up to 64 centimetres, so it's massive. So I'm going to be decreasing on the end of this, so I'll show you how to do that at the end of the video if you need to. Like I said, this one threw me off because the puff stitch row here made it a lot bigger than I thought it was going to, but that's all good. Now I know next time I make it I need to add less increased rows at the top. And now you know this without even needing to make your own one and make the mistake I have. So keep going until you have it long enough, and then I will show you at the end how to add your border. And then we're just about finished. So this is what we have so far, and I have my puff stitches. You can do as many rows as you like, and now we just need to continue on with the double crochet. If you didn't add the double crochet in between your puff stitch rows, this is how we do it. Sorry about the computer desk, but my workstation is packed away. So you can either do a chain 3 or you can do a single crochet into this space and a chain 1. And then we're going to double crochet into the top of the puff stitch and then we're going to do a double crochet into the next double crochet. And you're going to repeat this all the way around until we get to the beginning of our row. So, as you can see, the hat's a little bit too big, but that's okay. Mine is going to be a slouch hat. So, how do we get this to fit? Because as you can see, it's way too big. Now, I do have a video called Rescue a Beanie. You can use that video. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to work a row of single crochet, and then because single crochet is a small stitch, it's going to bring it in a little bit. If that isn't small enough, I am going to change my hook size. So I am going to show you what I'm going to do, but I'm just telling you at the moment that's what we're going to do. And I've got 3 rows of double crochet here, so I'm just going to do a couple of rows of single crochet until the hat circumference, like the opening here, becomes small enough and is tight on Mrs. Foamy's head. So, well, actually on my head because it's for me. So as you can see, I've got heaps to bring in. That's how much I need to bring the hat in. So let's get started on that part of the lesson. So apologies again for working on my computer desk, but I can't get to my workstation at the moment. So we've got a size G hook, and that is what I've used throughout the hat. So I'm going to work a single crochet. I'm going to single crochet into the stitch that is there. The lighting's probably not the best as well, so I apologise for that too. So we're just going to work on top of every double crochet, we're going to do a single crochet. And we're going to do this all the way around until we get to the other end. You don't have to do the single crochet, you could just leave it at the double crochet if you like. It's your creation, do what you like. So I'll meet you up when we get to the end. So as you can see, I haven't finished off quite yet, but this is big enough or small enough to fit my head now. But if you need to go smaller, you can use a smaller size hook, or you can go to the video Rescue a Beanie, and that will show you how to make it even smaller again. So thanks for watching my video, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe to my videos, as there will be plenty more tutorials coming up. I do try to get out about 1 video per week on a good week. So I hope you did enjoy it, and until next time, happy crocheting.